Welcome to this explainer. Today we're tracing an absolutely fascinating, unbroken thread of Philippine spirituality, taking us all the way from its ancient roots right up to its modern revival. I am super excited to guide you through this because what we're talking about today isn't just a sad history of what was lost. No, it's actually an incredible story of sheer survival, clever adaptation, and a really vibrant resurgence. So let's dive right in with a massive historical mystery. When you look at the rapid spread of Christianity across the Philippine archipelago during Spanish colonization, it is super easy to just assume the old belief systems were completely wiped out. But were they? Did ancient Philippine religions actually disappear? Or did they literally just change their names and hide in plain sight? We're going to see exactly how these ancient beliefs merged with new ones to survive centuries of drastic change. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the roots of Philippine spirituality, define the spirits and deities, explore the Catholic transformation, see how saints became modern Diwatas, and finally, look at how the old ways are being revived today. Okay, Section 1, Roots of Philippine Spirituality. Let's ground ourselves in the deep, physical past. It is so crucial to realize that a wildly complex spiritual ecosystem was thriving here thousands of years before any foreign ships arrived. Just look at the timeline. As far back as 2000 BC, the Angono petroglyphs give us evidence of early healing magic. By 890 BC, we're seeing highly complex burial rituals. Then written history kicks in around 900 AD with the Laguna copper plate, which proves they had clear connections to the Hindu-Buddhist Srivijaya Empire. And by the 1300s, Islam arrived peacefully through Arab traders. So you see, the indigenous people were already constantly adapting and sharing complex ideas long before colonization. A stunning example of this early culture is the Manungol jar, dating back nearly 3,000 years. It features this incredibly detailed carving of a ferryman paddling a soul across the water to the next world. It's kind of like the river Styx in Greek mythology, right? This just goes to show how deeply early Filipinos valued the afterlife and that continuous, unbreakable connection between the living and their departed ancestors. And that focus on the unseen brings us to Section 2, Spirits, Deities, and Ancestors. To really wrap our heads around this ancient era, we have to understand the specific spiritual entities our ancestors interacted with. It wasn't just some vague notion of spirit. It was highly organized. At the absolute foundation, you have the Anito. These were the ancestral spirits central to everyday life. You didn't just pray out into the void. You communicated with your own bloodline. Your ancestors were the direct bridge linking your living family straight up to the divine creator. Then, stepping up the hierarchy, we meet the Diwata. These were the higher deities, like Bathala and Mayari. And here is a super cool linguistic clue. The actual word Diwata comes from the Hindu-Buddhist word Deva. That perfectly reflects those early peaceful trade relationships we mentioned earlier. The Diwata had very distinct personalities, specific names, and unique domains of power. Finally, we have the Encanto. Now, if you grew up hearing this term, you probably associate it with scary or mischievous monsters. But actually, before colonial influence rebranded them with a Spanish word meaning enchanted, they were simply known as kaibigan, which literally means friends. They were just unseen nature spirits in the land and water, meant to guide you, as long as you respected them. So, what disrupted all of this? That brings us to Section 3, the Catholic transformation. When Spanish missionaries brought Christianity to this established ecosystem, the impact was obviously massive, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. Pre-colonial religions were incredibly practical. They were focused on staying healthy, avoiding sickness, and bringing in prosperity. Sure, they had ethics, but they were more like secular, societal rules for living together. Christianity brought something entirely foreign to the islands, a religious moral code centered around original sin and the ultimate goal of spiritual salvation. As academic Charles J.H. MacDonald points out, and this is a great quote, what Christianity brought to the Philippines was a religious code of ethics and an ideology of salvation. This was a total paradigm shift. Before, if you disrespected your elders and got sick, it wasn't divine punishment for a sin. It was just a natural consequence, kind of like touching a hot stove. The missionaries entirely rewired the whole framework of why a person should act morally. Which leads into Section 4, Saints as modern Diwatas. So what happens when this new ideology meets the deeply rooted ancient practices? You get something called transformative continuity. Basically, the locals took the brand new Catholic hierarchy and brilliantly mapped it right over their ancient polytheistic structure. The Catholic supreme god, that aligns seamlessly with Bathala. The Catholic saints, with their specific patronages, they mapped perfectly onto the Diwatas. Angels mapped onto Anitos and Encantos. To the indigenous people, the fundamental structure was totally familiar. They essentially kept their old world, they just learned the new Catholic names for it. Because this structural match was so perfect, folk Catholicism absolutely exploded. The ancient ways of veneration carried over completely intact. We see this today. There are wooden statues like the Amang Hinolid that are literally treated as living entities. In some regions, specific statues of saints actually hold legal titles to land. No joke. And if you go to Mount Banahao, national heroes like Jose Rizal are actively worshipped as new deities. It is literally the ancient indigenous structure surviving comfortably right beneath a Catholic veneer. And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, Reviving the Old Ways. We are currently living in an era where these hidden traditions are finally stepping out of the shadows. It's no longer just about hiding to survive, it's about intentional revival. Today, groups like Luntiang Aghama are formally registered religious corporations in the Philippines. They are dedicated to reviving the Malayang Maaram spiritual path, providing a legally recognized, completely safe community for Filipinos to actively reconnect with their pre-colonial roots without fear. A gorgeous example of this is their naming ceremony. It's not just about choosing an indigenous name that sounds cool. It is a profound, structured 5-step process. They analyze a person's birth name, evaluate their energetic balance, purify the soul, and then a specific Diwata spiritually reclaims the individual. It all culminates in the public declaration of their new name. It's a huge, deeply personal act of decolonization. And this isn't just a weekend hobby. It's a vibrant, daily lifestyle. Members adopt structured ranks from Gat up to Apu. They do daily devotions called Atang, where they offer food or water to their Diwata. They are even professionally trained in Tawas for divination and Healit for traditional physical healing. This is living, breathing history, completely operational right now in the 21st century. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. If ancient gods can survive for centuries entirely disguised as Catholic saints, what other lost histories are hiding in our everyday traditions, right beneath our noses? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the history around you and never stop exploring the unseen.